Have you ever wanted to become an absolute tank in Destiny? Amp up your weapons to the max while giving yourself massive damage resistance and shield? Well, today, I'm bringing you that dream. Ever since Strain got introduced, Stasis has felt a bit underwhelming, but we know that in the future, Bungie will be giving Stasis some big updates. Until then, this build has to be one of my favorite Stasis builds. I saw a lot of love being shared on both the weapon-based builds for Void and Solar Titan, so today I'm bringing you the Stasis weapon-based build. In the start of the season, we saw so many of the Titan exotics getting changes to provide stacking weapon surge buffs for each subclass. Icefall Mantle got a major update, allowing it to now give on-demand stasis weapon surge. The best part about this is that you can activate your 25% weapon buff just by using your class ability. Most of the other exotics give a weapon buff, but they require you to get a kill with a melee or a grenade, or if you're on arc, you have to activate your super. And honestly, that's not always possible for damage phases. And that's the beauty of this build. It's shown when you come across a section where you just really need to amp up your damage. Maybe you're about to face a champion, or you're in the middle of a boss phase. With one click of a button, not only are you getting 25% more damage, but you're also getting an overshield, which is also giving you an extra 62% damage resistance. Not only will this build give matching weapon damage buffs, on-demand overshield, and damage resistance, but we can also hot swap it to do some of the most damage a Titan Super has to offer. Remember to like this video if you found it helpful, and if you like seeing build videos and other Destiny 2 helpful content, consider hitting that subscribe button. With that being said, let's jump right on into it. Before we start breaking it down, there are a few tricks to this build. Since the first few times I was playing with it, it did feel a bit clunky. So here are a few tips for the build. Number 1, when you activate your class ability, you basically can't move. All you can do is walk and bunny hop, so make sure you're in a good position to be able to use it. Number 2, once you're in your barricade mode, you can reactivate the barricade to turn off the overshield and gain your movement back. This second activation does count towards certain mods, but we will touch on that later. And number 3, the barricade can be used as a saving grace. Stasis is one of the hardest classes to gain healing with, so keep in mind that you can activate your barricade when you are critical, and let that do all the work while you're regenerating health. Alright, let's take a look at the super and the abilities. First up for our super, we're taking Glacial Quake. It's the only option we have as of now. It's not a one and done super, but it does massive amounts of damage. Glacial Quake has to be one of my favorite roaming supers in the game. Not only does it put out massive amounts of damage against the right boss, but it also excels at ad clear. Depending on the boss and the situation you're in, you can hot swap to Synthoceps and output upwards of 1,000,000 damage in boss phases. There are some cheeky things you can do with Ward of Dawn to insta-shatter crystals, but honestly, all you have to do is stay far enough back that the large crystals will shatter on the boss. Once all the crystals are in position and your super is over, slide right on in and shatter all the remaining crystals. It's easy as that. Alright, taking a look at the abilities. First up, I'm choosing Rally Barricade. It honestly doesn't really matter too much since the cooldown will be overwritten by the Icefall Mantle. Honestly, pick whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter too much. For a powered melee, I'm taking Shiver Strike. It is the only melee option for Stasis right now, but I do have a tip for you when using it. If you are up close to the target you want to hit, it's really hit or miss whether you're actually going to hit them or not. It does have inconsistent tracking. However, you can hold down the melee button for longer and it will dash further throughout the air. So pick a target that's a little bit further away and send them flying off the map. For a grenade, I'm choosing the Glacier Grenade. I'm picking this for a few reasons. Mainly, we have a ton of synergies when it comes to shattering crystals, so this is going to give us an option to generate even more crystals. Alright, taking a look at our aspects. First up, I'm taking Cryoclasm. This makes it so that after sprinting for a short time, sliding will shatter nearby frozen targets and crystals. We will be generating mass amounts of crystals, and honestly at that point also freezing targets, so this makes it super easy to shatter them and deal a ton of AoE damage. Plus, it's nice to get around the tower a little bit quicker, since you do get to slide a little bit further. I'm also going to pair this with Tectonic Harvest. This makes it so that shattering a crystal creates a stasis shard. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your teammates. We are going to be pairing this with one of Fragments later, so it's honestly going to be nice to be able to create those stasis shards. Alright, moving on to our Fragments. First up, Whisper of Shards. This is going to make it so that shattering a crystal will temporarily boost grenade recharge rate. This is honestly a major catalyst for this build. Since we can generate so many crystals and shattering them is so easy, every time we do, we're getting a bonus 500% grenade recharge rate, which can stack up to 11 seconds. Which means if we can keep this buff active and we have 100 discipline, we'll get our grenade back roughly every 15 seconds. Alright, I'm also going to pair this with Whisper of Rhyme, so that when we collect stasis shards, we're granted a small amount of overshield for 10 seconds. Depending on the size of the crystal that it came from, this is anywhere from 5 to 35 HP. And if you're not at full health, it just straight up gives you health. This is definitely crucial since it's the only way we have to heal with stasis. And again, we are going to be trading a ton of crystals, and it's so easy to shatter them. Those crystals are going to drop those shards, so once you destroy those crystals, slide right through and pick up those shards to gain that overshield or that health. Next up, I'm taking Whisper of Fissures. This is going to give increased damage damage and the size of the burst when shattering stasis crystals or frozen targets. This is an extra 12.5% damage when you're shattering frozen targets. And since we can create so many crystals and easily freeze targets, this just amplifies our damage output. And finally, we're taking Whisper of Chains, so that when you're near frozen targets or your stasis crystals, you gain an extra 40% damage resistance. This is amazing since we can stack it with all of our other damage resistances coming from our mods, resilience, and Icefall Mantle, meaning if we stand near a crystal or a frozen target, activate our Icefall Mantle, we're basically unkillable. Alright, let's talk about ways to improve the build. First up, for our stat mods. I'm shooting for 100 resilience. Again, stasis is one of the harder subclasses to stay alive on since we don't have access to things like cure or restoration or banner of war restrained. So honestly, having that extra damage resistance is just amazing. We can stack it with all of our other ways to get damage resistance. It's going to make it that much harder for enemies to deal damage to us, which could get you out of some tricky scenarios. I'm also pairing this with 100 discipline. Since we do have that way to get 500% grenade recharge rate by shattering a crystal, having 100 discipline is going to be a must. This will drop our cooldown to around 15 seconds whenever we do shatter those crystals. And since we do get the added benefit of generating more stasis shards and dealing more damage, why wouldn't we want to throw our grenades more often? After that, I'm shooting for 70 recovery. Again, being one of the harder subclasses to stay alive on, having that increased recovery is going to be amazing. We will pair this with a mod later so that we can basically have triple 100s in resilience, discipline, and recovery. So that's why I'm shooting for 70 with recovery. And then all the leftover stats, I'm basically focusing into strength. I did get a little bit lucky with some of my armor, so I'm able to get upwards of 60 strength, but honestly, just go for as much as you can. It's not super necessary, but it is nice to be able to get your melee back. All right, let's talk armor mods. First up, our helmet mods. I'm going to be choosing to take Harmonic Siphon, so that rapid elemental kills are going to be able to create orbs. Since this is a weapon focused build, we will be using our stasis weapons a ton, and it'll be nice to be able to generate more orbs. I'm also going to pair this with Heavy Ammo Finder, increasing the drop chance of heavy ammo. There are a few heavy weapons that I do like to use for ad clearing, so it is kind of nice to be able to find more heavy ammo more often. And finally, I'm pairing this with Heavy Ammo Scout. I did think about Ashes to Assets, though it does seem like with the Glacier Grenade, it doesn't actually activate on grenade kills. I could be wrong, but that was just my finding, so if you do find that it does work, you could use Ashes to Assets. Otherwise, I am taking Heavy Ammo Scout. Since we are using Heavy Ammo Finder, it's just going to generate more heavy ammo for our team. Alright, moving on to the gauntlets. First up, I'm taking Harmonic Loader. This is going to increase our reload speed for our stasis weapons. This or Harmonic Dexterity will work. Pick whichever one is right for your scenario. Both are great options. Then I'm also going to pair this with Impact Induction and Momentum Transfer, where again, this is going to make it so that when we cause damage with a powered melee, it's going to give grenade energy, and when we cause damage with a grenade, it's going to give melee energy. I did think about Firepower, but when I tested it out, Firepower wasn't actually dropping any orbs when I was killing with the Glacial Grenade. I think this mainly happens because the kill doesn't happen when you actually throw the crystals. The kill happens when you shatter them, and the game doesn't count those crystals as being from your grenade. So inherently, it's just saying that you shattered an enemy or you shattered a crystal instead of getting a kill with your grenade. So there's not really a way to create an orb off that. Since we still deal damage with our grenade, we can still fund it back into our melee. All right, moving on to the chest. I'm going to take 3 resistance mods, and it's going to mainly depend on the content we're doing. I do usually like to take one of each element, so solar, arc, and void, but if you do have a threat or you are facing certain types of enemies, then pair it whichever one fits best for the scenario you're in. All right, moving on to the legs. First up, I'm taking Absolution. It's going to give us 5% ability energy for all of our abilities when we pick up an orb. Again, we are going to be using our stasis weapons a decent amount, so creating orbs is going to be fairly easy. This is just going to give us a little bit of boost for all of our abilities. I do like to pair this with Recuperation, so that we get 70 health when we do pick up an orb. Being that stasis is a little bit harder to survive, it's nice to get that little health boost. For our last mod, it kind of depends on the content you're in. If you're in hard content, Better Already is probably your best option, so that you can start health regen when you pick up an orb. If you're in easy content, I'd honestly probably go for Innervation. This is going to give an extra 10% grenade energy on orb pickup, again leading to more crystals and more shards. All right, moving on to our mark. First up, I'm taking Bomber. Bomber makes it so that when we use our class ability, we're going to get an extra 12% grenade energy. And since we do want to use our class ability to give ourselves weapon surge, this offers a benefit for more grenade energy. And this will also proc both when we're using the overshield and deactivating it. So you can actually activate it, get your weapon surge plus your grenade energy, and then immediately turn around and deactivate it about a second later and get another 12% grenade energy, and you still have your weapon surge. I'm also going to pair this with Powerful Traction, so we pick up nearby orbs when we use our class ability. Since these orbs are going to give us more health and more ability energy, it's going to be nice to pick them up with ease. And finally, I'm pairing it with Font of Restoration. This is going to give us an extra 30 in recovery when we do have armor charge. Since we are able to generate so many orbs and pick them up with ease with Powerful Traction, this means we should basically literally always have 100 resilience, 100 recovery, and 100 discipline, which is going to keep us alive and healthy and make it so that we can throw more grenades. All right, moving on to the artifact. Since this season focuses on everything but stasis, there's not a whole lot we can do, but there are two in column 5 that we will want to look at. For column 5, we want monochromatic maestro. So when we use our weapons, it buffs our abilities, and when we use our abilities, it buffs our weapons. It's a 10% buff that lasts for 5 seconds, so why not? You can also take rapid fire ranger, so that when you score precision hits against targets that are at a distance, it weakens them. Besides that, there's nothing else you can really do. Let's wait until next season. Alright, since this is a stasis build that focuses on using our weapons, let's talk weapons. First up, our kinetic slot. We do want to take a stasis primary, and mainly one with headstone. Since we gain so many benefits to breaking stasis crystals, there's so much benefit in just having a primary with headstone. So Horror Story is going to be my number 1 pick. It is the auto rifle going on for the event right now, so I'm still chasing that god roll that has a reload perk, such as Demo or Enlightened, with headstone. But man, does it feel good. I do have a roll with headstone, and it already feels amazing. Another great pick is going to be the prolonged engagement. This is an SMG from Vanguard, and it can roll with subsistence and headstone. Plus it has Viced on it, and honestly with this wombo combo, it makes it so that you rarely have to reload. It does make it a little bit harder to get those headshots and create those stasis crystals since it is a rapid fire SMG, but honestly just hit your shots. Another good option is going to be the Disparity. This is a pulse rifle from a previous season, and it can roll with rapid hit or outlaw, and then you can pair this with headstone. This makes it so the weapon deals a ton of damage and reload with ease. A few other good options for pulses are going to be the Syncopation or the New Purpose. Both can roll with headstone, so try to pick up one of those if you can. If you have room for an exotic, Wicked Implement is actually pretty good when it has its catalyst. Since it now has headstone, you'll want to be aiming for the head to create a crystal and for its slowing factor. You can deal decent damage, and honestly you can stop 2 champions with this weapon alone. Alright, let's talk your energy slot. I'm mainly going to pick an ad clear or a high damage weapon. I'm going to use this as a utility slot. This slot really depends on the activity you're doing. In raid scenarios, a fusion with controlled burst is really good, but in easier content, something like Forbearance for ad clear is amazing. Or if you're in tight quarters, Blinding GL is also a great option. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Tessellation. Yes, this is a pre-order exclusive, however, it is also the only weapon in the slot that can be stasis. So if you have it, you can run triple stasis weapon builds. Otherwise, Forbearance or any other Wayframe GL is my favorite for ad clear. And then if you want to do more damage to bosses, I'm looking at Loaded Question or Eremite. Both can roll with controlled burst, but if you do have the exotic slot available, Merciless is an excellent option. There's also another interesting option that won't be as good until next season, and that's going to be the Edge of Action. This is the Titan exclusive glaive. Since this will be getting the normal glaive buff, the added damage resistance from the glaive shield is massive with this build. Plus, next season, when you pass through the bubble that you can make, you get extra weapon damage. So in theory, this would stack with our weapon surge to give us even more weapon damage. Something I'll definitely be looking at next season. And finally, for our heavy slot. And man, there's honestly kind of a lot to talk about here. First up, my number 1 pick is Cold Comfort. It's by far the best rocket in the game right now, and I'm gonna choose Chill Clip for this. But if you have a roll with Bait and Switch, that definitely works too. I couldn't find much data on the difference between Chill Clip and Bait and Switch and the amount of damage they do, but we also do more shatter damage since we are in stasis, so why not lean into it? This rocket is amazing since you can get Envious Assassin on it. You can load up to 3 rockets in the mag and then get 1 finisher to be able to unload 4 rockets without having to reload, meaning we can start a damage phase with a hot swap to Synthoceps for our super and deal 1 million plus damage, and then pop our class ability and unload 4 rockets immediately to absolutely damage dump on the boss. Some other good options for legendaries are going to be Bump in the Night with Chill Clip, Fire and Forget with Focus Fury if you need a linear, and the Typhon GL5. If you want a grenade launcher, it has Explosive Light and Demo, which does do pretty decent damage. We do also have 2 exotics that are stasis, and are both fun to use, but a little situational. Salvation's Grip is definitely a fun option, but it's not as practical. It's close to being really good, so I'd definitely give it a try for yourself and see how you like it. Alright, let's talk Winter Bite. It actually feels amazing with this build. You gain massive ad clearing potential since it freezes so many targets. Plus we gain the added shatter damage. So when we use the glaive melee when it's loaded, it feels strong. Not only this, but we can activate an overshield to gain massive damage resistance and extra health. So you almost feel unkillable while you're just smacking away with the glaive. Definitely give it a shot, and next season it's going to be even stronger. So it's going to feel even better. This build offers uniqueness. You have massive damage resistance with our exotic that turns us into a walking tank. You have increased weapon damage that can be activated at any time. We can hot swap to deal massive super damage to bosses, and we gain health, overshield, and melee energy every time we pick up a stasis shard. This build feels very solid as of now, and will only get stronger in the future when the stasis update comes in. I can't wait to see what gets changed and to try this out next season with the new glaive and weapon updates. Let me know your thoughts of the build What would you change or how would you improve it? If you like this video and want to see more content like this, smash the like button and subscribe. That's it for me. Peace out.